this is Ruslan Belov. Well, friends, there's a lot of news. Some of it good, with significant progress on our part, but undoubtedly, the biggest news of the past 24 hours has been yet another attempt by the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, to break through into Kursk Oblast. This time, however, it wasn't in the Sudzha district sector but further northwest. So let's start with these suicidal attacks by the Ukrainian military. What happened here? Well, it was essentially a repeat of the situation we saw not long ago, in March in Belgorod Oblast. That is, the UAF gathered some reserves, concentrated them in the settlements of Bilopilia and Vorozhba, and decided to spoil the bright holiday of Victory Day with this kind of PR stunt. An incursion, or attempted incursion, into Kursk Oblast. Look, our leadership, both political and military, had set the task of pushing the UAF out of what we might call our canonical territory by Victory Day. And they succeeded in that task. That one tree line in Belgorod Oblast doesn't count. The UAF no longer controls a single settlement in our regions. So Zelensky decided to spoil things, and by May 9th, seize at least one, or better yet, a couple, of settlements. I'll say right away, they won't succeed here. It'll be the same story as what we saw in Belgorod Oblast. They'll advance, die, advance again, and die again. Footage of strikes on Ukrainian equipment was already published yesterday. The Ukrainians lost over 10 vehicles and many soldiers. Now, let's get into the specifics. The first wave of the attack happened closer to noon. As usual, 2 mine-clearing vehicles led the way, followed by a tank and 3 armored vehicles with infantry. We hit one of the mine-clearing vehicles almost immediately. It burned out. The footage of that was also published. We also took out the tank while the armored vehicles dropped off their infantry before reaching the border. This is important, and then turned around and fled. The infantry, meanwhile, was met with a hail of cluster munitions. Nearly 30 soldiers died here, but Zelensky is persistent. If he wants something, he'll keep throwing men at it, no matter the losses. Just look at the Belgorod sector. They kept attacking for weeks, dying without achieving anything. Anyway, after the first wave came a second. This time, they didn't use heavy equipment, but instead tried to slip through gaps in the Dragon's Teeth defenses along the border. Essentially, they attempted to infiltrate on all-terrain vehicles in small groups of 5 to 6 men. This is the same tactic we ourselves actively use on key frontline sectors. And by the way, it's the reason we've been making multi-kilometer breakthroughs. They had some limited success here too. Not kilometer-long, of course, but on 5 ATVs, they managed to rush into Tetkino and reach the railway station, which is one of our strong points. That's where they got bogged down. Meanwhile, our forces burned 3 of the 5 ATVs, plus another mine-clearing vehicle, and also took out a T-72 that was trying to provide fire support from a distance. So the result of yesterday's offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces. They advanced a whopping 360 meters into our territory. Truly a mega-powerful achievement. By the way, there was a second sector in Kursk Oblast where they also tried to advance. We'll talk more about Kursk Oblast in a moment, and then move on to other frontline sectors where we've made fairly good progress on several fronts. But regarding Kursk, if near Tetkino the UAF managed to break through the border and enter the village, advancing a few hundred meters, in the second sector, Veselovsky district, after a full day of attacks, they failed to enter Kursk Oblast at all. I'm in direct contact with fighters there, and when the attack started, they messaged me. When it ended, they wrote that everything was fine, everyone was alive and unharmed, which, by the way, is great news. In short, the UAF spent the whole day battering our defenses, losing about 20 soldiers and 2 armored vehicles, but they couldn't set foot on Russian soil. The guys holding that line are absolute heroes. Summing up yesterday's offensive, I wasn't even worried, because it's obvious that the UAF simply can't achieve anything here by definition. Their objective, clearly, was to capture at least Tetkino plus Popova Leżacza to establish a bridgehead inside Kursk Oblast and then launch deeper attacks into the region. Again trying to seize at least a few square kilometers, tens of square kilometers. But everyone was prepared for this scenario, which is why nothing serious can come of it for them. Right now, fighting is still ongoing near the railway station in Tetkino. During the night, they also tried infiltrating with infantry groups. No heavy equipment this time, or rather, their heavy vehicles stayed at a distance from the border. Still, despite that distance, we managed to take out another armored vehicle overnight. They transported infantry, attempted infiltrations, and were met with artillery fire. For now, let's summarize. Fighting continues near the railway station in Tetkino. There are also battles on the approaches to Novi Put, but on the Ukrainian side of the border, no crossings were allowed. That's the full outcome of the first day of their offensive. Meanwhile, of course, we immediately began turning Bilopilia and Vorozhba to dust. Yesterday they were hit not only by artillery, but also by other strikes. Some sources even claimed 5 civilians were killed. I don't know how accurate that is, but honestly, here's the situation. They're trying to invade our territory. Naturally, strikes will target UAF concentration points, and those happen to be Bilopilia and Vorozhba. We'll keep a close eye on developments, but unlike some panic mongers, I won't point fingers. You already know. Nothing will come of this. We saw the same with their attacks in Belgorod Oblast, and here it'll be the same script. Now, let's move to other frontline sectors where we're making solid advances. Touretsk, Konstantinivka sector. We've taken control of 6 square kilometers, including parts of Krimska, Dakhna and Dylivka. This advance is crucial because it now secures the northeastern flank of Touretsk, meaning the UAF can no longer counterattack or flank the town from this direction. If you look at the map, Touretsk is almost entirely red, under Russian control. Only one sector remains questionable, and even that's only a question for American cartographers. For us, there's no doubt. Eastern flank of Mirnohrad. As I mentioned at the end of yesterday's update, the UAF here have begun collapsing. From the recently captured Berezivka, we broke through 700 meters, smashed their strongpoints along the highway, crossed it, and entered Nova Poltavka. Fighting is now ongoing in the village. Heavy battles also continue in Malinivka, while Mirna remains quiet for now. Kotlyarivka and beyond. We pushed the UAF back in Kotlyarivka and areas south of it. Our positions are now just 2.5 kilometers from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. The only question is whether we'll enter the new region before or after May 9th. Bogatyr sector, south of Rozliv. A brilliant advance of nearly 4 kilometers yesterday, reaching the road between Velika Novosilka and Bodanivka. This is critical for approaching Otradne because from the south, Otradne is blocked by a fortified line. You'd have to grind through it at great cost. But here, we can flank those defenses and advance on the village, which is now the goal. And notice this. Every single day, we're seeing gains of 3, 4, even 5 kilometers. Before, such progress was rare, maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks. Now? Daily. No wonder Zelensky is begging for a 30, 60, or 90-day ceasefire. He desperately needs to reinforce the UAF because their reserves are clearly depleted, leading to these unprecedented collapses. Correction, Novopol and Zelenpol assault. An update on the large-scale assault I reported yesterday. I admit I gave slightly incorrect info. I said we advanced 800 meters, but the actual figure is 2 kilometers. This changes the picture of the operation significantly. North of Touretsk, the 4th Motorized Rifle Brigade continues advancing north toward Chasiv Yar, tightening the noose around the Dylivka group. There's also progress in Chasiv Yar itself and near Stupochki, where Russian forces are pressing to outflank the Dylivka grouping and approach Konstantinivka from this axis. The situation across Donbass is catastrophic for Kiev. Northern Siversk direction. Russian forces are pushing forward near Mount Bila, with significant progress today toward the center of Hrihorivka. In the Lyman sector, the Russian armed forces are gradually splitting the UAF groups on the eastern bank of the Oskil River into the Borova and Lyman contingents. Near Kupiansk, heavy fighting continues as Russian troops aim to cut off logistics to the city and block the road to Velikai Burluk. Sumy direction Russian units have reportedly taken control of the settlement of Vodolahi, though this remains unconfirmed. If true, the advance toward Yunakivka from the north will likely continue, writes Yuri Podolyaka. Zelensky's office backtracks on Moscow strike threats. The rhetoric from Kiev has shifted. Earlier claims about potential UAF strikes on Moscow during the May 9th Victory Day parade have been quietly walked back. Bankova Street, Zelensky's office, seems to have realized that their public threats only strengthened Moscow's negotiating position. After warnings from Trump's administration, they abruptly distanced themselves from the missile strike narrative, reports legitimately. A system that resists change will eventually face a crisis. It either adapts or loses control. Ukraine is approaching that point. Trump's interview, ambiguity on Russia policy. The US president gave a lengthy interview where, when asked about potential misunderstandings with Putin, Trump again stated that he needs a month or 2 weeks to decide how to approach Russia. He avoided criticizing the Russian president outright. Tetkino update, Alexander Sladkov. We knew they'd come. We conducted comprehensive preparations on this section of the border. I can't specify details, but we worked proactively. Thanks to our intelligence, it was obvious the UAF would attempt a high-profile attack before May 9th. They think hitting Kursk would hurt us the most. But no, we're not letting them through, Sladkov wrote. U.S. State Department appointment. The U.S. ambassador to Cyprus, Julie Davis, will become the chargé d'affaires in Ukraine, reports indicate. Davis is a career diplomat with a focus on Russia and Eastern Europe, studied at the University of North Carolina. She previously served in U.S. embassies in Moscow and Kyiv, exact years undisclosed. Under Trump, she was deputy NATO envoy, later moving to Western European affairs at the State Department. In 2020, she was nominated as ambassador to Belarus, but never received a visa. Biden then appointed her as special envoy for Belarus, based in Vilnius, though she held the post for less than a year before her current Cyprus role. Notably, her surname appears as Fisher on Wikipedia, but Davis in official embassy records. As chargé d'affaires, she won't be a full ambassador. This is typically an interim role. The fact that Trump pulled an ambassador from Cyprus for this job suggests he urgently needs his own experienced person in Kyiv, untainted by the current embassy staff. He knows Senate confirmation for a full ambassador would take too long. Davis's past nominations took 8 months under Trump, 6 under Biden. Recall that during Trump's first term, he never managed to appoint a permanent ambassador to Kyiv after Yovanovitch's 2019 ouster. She was accused of undermining him. Closing remarks. That's all for today's Frontline update. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.